Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's start our video with a story about the pettiness of an old man who fought junk mail in an original way. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. My granddad fights back against junk mail. This is from my now-deceased grandfather. I was visiting him one day and complained a bit about junk mail. He surprised me by saying he loved it. I had to find out why, and I asked him. He was a lovely man and not tolerant of things he thought were foolish. Liking junk mail seemed against his character. He cackled and showed me what he did with it. For each new piece of junk mail, he cut his name and address out and added it to a pile he kept compressed under a few heavy books. When he had what he deemed enough, about a half-inch thick, he waited for the next prepaid envelope, put it all in, and posted it to whichever company happened to be unfortunate enough to send him the envelope. He lived to be 93. Pettiness adds years to your life. Smart guy. I'll probably live to be 150 in that case. And our next story. Don't want to admit you made a mistake? Cool. Pay 5 times as much and lose your job. I'd worked about 2 years at this point for a MSP, at the time called a systems integrator, and they generously paid for the engineers/techs to obtain industry certifications. I started out as an on-call contractor setting up desktops, and they hired me on full-time after about 3 months. One day, I get called into the boss's office to meet with him, the owner, and the salesperson. The owner told me with a gleam in his eye that the company just landed a major high-profile client. I showed up to the arena, checked in with security, and I'm escorted to the business office area. A lady we'll call Karen comes out and introduces herself as the CIO. Karen spent the first 45 minutes of my time there to take me on a grand tour of the business office. I saw the owner's offices, the GM's office, her office, pictures of framed, autographed jerseys, the nearly empty trophy case, and the big glass window that overlooks the court. She even said that I'm welcome to eat lunch in the staff dining area. She then said she's taking me to the server room. We turned a couple of corners, and she unlocked the door to a really small office. Boxes stacked in one corner, spare furniture in another. Karen waved her hand at the setup, pointed to a sheet with some handwriting on it, said I should have everything I need and she'll be in her office if I had any questions. She left me to it. And after I called the home office to reschedule my other client, I started assessing the situation. I quickly saw the first problem. The NetWare server was already set up to run backups, but going by the status report date on the screen, backups hadn't been running for months. The software was only an add-on module to back up email folders. Using the credentials on the sheet, I logged into the Windows server running Exchange to handle all the email. I tried to look at different settings, and I quickly realized I only had limited permissions. I walked back to the CIO's office. So far, Karen's been pretty chill. But suddenly, Karen flipped the Karen switch on. Maybe I didn't seem impressed enough with the tour? Me. 2 problems. First, I need admin permissions to do the work you need done. Second, why do you need admin permissions? To install and configure the backup software? The software also, why can't you just use the accounts I gave you? Because they don't have enough permissions? Also, the backup software, my other tech, let's call him Paul, uses those accounts fine to run the backups. Why do you need extra permissions? Picks up the desk phone and dials, hey Paul, could you come to my office now please? Thanks. Probably because he has backup operator permissions. Higher permissions are needed to install software. Speaking of which, after Paul knocks on the door and enters, have you had any problems with the daily backups? Paul. No, why? OP here says he needs extra permissions to install the backup software. Do you agree? Paul looked side to side. I'm not sure, as I just handle the desktop. If Paul can manage backups with those accounts, I don't see why you can't install the software, OP. How did you install the software originally? All this was set up before I started here, and I was brought in to clean all this up. Is there anyone else who manages the servers? No, it's just me and him. I see. Would you come with me, please? I need to show you something. Why? It's easier to show you than explain. Karen rolls her eyes, gets up from her desk, and motions for Paul to come with, We all go back to the server room. Okay, first let me ask, my understanding is you want the backup software installed on the Windows server, right? Of course, so it can perform brick-level backups of the email. You guys said you were sending one of your best. How do you not know about backups? That's what I'm asking. You bought an add-on module for the Novell server. Showing her where it says on the box, I can't install this on Windows. Karen snatches the box from my hand. I called the software company myself and ordered it from them directly after I told them the setup here. Are you saying they lied to me and sold me the wrong product or made a mistake? No, I'm not saying that as I wasn't part of the conversation. I'm only saying this is for Novell and I can't install this on Windows. So they sold me the wrong software? Can we go to their website or call them? Karen rolls her eyes. Fine, let's go back to my office. Back in her office, she sat down, went to the website while I stood behind her, then spun around to me with a smirk on her face after a few mouse clicks. See, this is what I bought. It says right here, it'll back up Microsoft Exchange servers. Well, this doesn't say brick-level backups. It says for Novell servers. Can you click where it says Microsoft? Karen sighs and clicks. This is pointless. I bought what I bought because it's half the cost. When I called, they said this would also back up my Exchange server. Why would it back up a Windows server but not install on a Windows server? That makes no sense. I point to the screen. It says right there the Windows version performs brick-level backups. The NetWare version will back up the emails but not the entire database, and it will restore the entire database as one file, but it can't do brick-level backups or restores. A server can back up anything as long as it can see it on a network and it has permissions to it. Here's the bottom line. They told me this would work. I'm paying you to make this work, so make it work. Or tell me you can't make it work and I'll find someone who can. Enter the malicious compliance. It'll work, but not like how you think. And if you want to, air quotes, make it work, it'll only install on Novell. Can I show you? She sighs and hands me the software box. I still need an admin login. After several more minutes of debate over the admin login, she reluctantly logged me into the Windows server. I put the CD into the Windows server and nothing happened. I brought up the CD in Explorer to show her the folders and files, but none executable and no way really to install. She unlocked the Novell console, I inserted the CD, mounted it, and the install auto-ran. I didn't look back, but I could feel her eyes burning holes into the back of my head. In about 30 minutes, I installed the software, configured it to back up the Exchange server boxes as well as the rest of the data on both servers, and performed a successful test backup, all while she hovered over me with her arms crossed. I noticed that backups hadn't been running, and after checking the logs to find the problem, I configured the scheduled service to log in with the backup operator account credentials. Tested again successfully. Me. By the way, your backups haven't been running for about 3 months. I fixed that for you. The scheduled service didn't have a login account configured, so I plugged in the backup operator username password. What do you mean? You saw the status screen when we walked in. It said a successful backup. And you said you needed admin rights? Yes, that was the last successful backup, which was months ago. Switching to the log file on screen, here's the date and time of the last successful backup. Configuring a backup job and installing software are two different tasks that need two different sets of permissions. Karen stomped to the door, opened it, and yelled for Paul. When he arrived, she lit into him so loudly someone from the cubicles came to the room to see what the problem was. I still feel bad about that because it wasn't Paul's fault. After 3 hours, I left and immediately called my boss from the car, explaining exactly what happened. Sure enough, Karen had already called. My boss reassigned my other client and asked me to come back. When I got back to the office, the owner, my boss, and I went to the conference room and we set up a conference call with Karen and the backup software support team. They looked up Karen's account and politely explained that, according to the notes, they told Karen to buy the Windows version for brick-level backups of Exchange email accounts, but Karen balked at the price, so they offered her the Novell version with the caveat that it would perform entire Exchange database backups and use folders only. I wasn't completely right, but right enough. Karen now insisted that they only sold her what they sold her because she threatened to buy their competitor software. After she demanded a supervisor, the supervisor got on the call and said she needed to buy the correct software. They'd make an exception to their no refunds on open software policy and give her a partial credit. Otherwise, she could go ahead and buy the competitor software, and she'd get no refund at all. Karen huffed and puffed and tried playing the "Do you know who I work for" card, but they wouldn't budge. She had no other choice. After the software company hung up, Karen asked the owner when he could send me out to finish the job. We went back after Karen got the correct software. I installed it without a hitch, even though she had enabled remote desktop on the server to watch me. I also wrote up a job aid for Paul with screenshots to manage backup jobs. The senior saw I knew what I was doing, so to pass the time, he made a list of recommendations for her: server racks, anti-static mats, UPS, racks for the switches, cable management, adequate ventilation and temperature controls, physically securing the room, disaster recovery plan, etc. He emailed them to Karen and CC'd me, my boss, and the owner. The invoice we sent her charged her for 3 hours for my first visit, plus the hour at my rate and another hour for the senior at the higher rate. A few months later, my boss told me they got a call back from the team's new CIO. He said after the team restructured the business unit, he took Karen's place and hired additional staff. Paul discovered the recommendation list among a bunch of emails Karen had deleted with a brick-level restore of her emails that I'd set up. The new CIO wanted to know how soon the company could send someone to complete the recommendation list and consult his staff on additional recommendations. Since the new CIO was hiring his own staff, he wouldn't need us for the long-term support contract, but he would definitely call us when he needed any work done they couldn't handle. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.